So this is our second interview. It's October 4th, and I'm going to ask you questions from the beginning of the war. And so I just want to start off with, the first time you really felt the spread of the Germans' anti-Semitism and what that first experience was, whether you remember it very vividly or, so I just would like you to first.
Okay. Well, first of all, when the Germans started sending bombs into Warsaw, I saw the first building crumbling across the street, farther down. And then we really knew that's the war. And anti-Semitism in Poland was always there. Polish people have been very religious, mostly primitive people. They used to go to churches every Sunday, and the priest used to preach every Sunday. The Jews killed Jesus. Even the history tells us that the Romans actually did it, not the Jews. But it didn't make any difference to them, just to blame the Jews, because that was an easy target. Blame the Jews was the easiest target, always. And in many countries, I suppose, not just Poland. Well, then we had to stay in line for food, not to get it free, but just to get it, because the stores started closing up. They didn't want later on to take bigger prices for daily articles what people need every day, like bread and stuff. So we stayed in lines for bread. And the Germans started to send the bombs. When we saw the airplanes, a lot of people got scared from the line and ran away. We were not scared, we just moved forward so we could make sure that we get the bread what we need for the family. And where we lived, actually there were no bunkers to hide in, because those buildings have not been built for protection of war, because they've been just buildings. What else can I say?
Well, I would like to go back, who told you that they were preaching in the church against Jews? Did you have friends that would?
Oh, yes.
So they would tell you stories?
Yes.
And what would you go to your mother and, ask her?
Exactly. First time when I noticed I was treated differently, I was hardly 6 years old. That was the first grade. And since I'm born in end of December, I was hardly just finished being 6. I started being 6 actually. And I must have noticed in school, oh yes, the difference was when the religious classes came. I come from a religious home, excuse me. And I was told at home, when the religious classes come on, for me to walk out. And this is what I did. Then the difference showed that I was not one of them. And it started out with finger pointing and calling names and this and that. When I came home, crying. What can a mother tell her 6-year-old? She told me, you know what? Because you are prettier and you are smarter and they are jealous. What else can you tell a kid? You want to make it feel good. This is what she told me. Well, I tried to live with it, didn't have a choice. But life in Poland was always very hard, because the anti-Semitism have been very strong, built in, and every Sunday repeated at the church's sermons or whatever. So it was not an easy life, definitely not. I don't have actually any good memories of anything except my own family, the closeness of family, the come together, and I have two cousins my same age, so we've been also friends, best friends. So it always was family close knit because we couldn't make other friends. They didn't want us, so we couldn't fit in. Next question.
Can you recall the first time you saw acts of violence against other Jews? Maybe not yourself in specific, but was a witness to it?
Yes, first of all, I don't remember, I think it's right in the beginning, they made that ghetto, Warsaw Ghetto. And it was a big part of the city. There was actually two parts because it was a bridge made, what they call it, big ghetto to the small ghetto, and the street underneath belonged to the Polish people. So they traveled through, but if we wanted to go from one place to the other, we had to cross that bridge. And well, food started to be scarce in the ghetto. I mentioned that I had blonde hair and blue eyes. So I could sneak out as a Polish girl because they had some kind of picture that Jews are all dark and dark eyes, dark hair, curly hair, whatever. I didn't fit that description. So I used to take out stuff from home, what mother gave me, sell it outside, and brought food for the family to have to eat. And I had bad encounters, but mother always said to me when I came back, you have a good angel watching over you. Because I went one time from underneath barbed wire with my stuff, small package of stuff to sell and to bring back food. And a Polish guy pointed at me where two German soldiers were staying there. They couldn't talk German. They said, Panie, that means mister. That's a Jude, that's a Jew. Those two German soldiers, that was a streetcar was passing by on that street. Those two German soldiers actually waited for me to go on that streetcar, that Polak should not bother me. When I came home, told Mom and Dad, I said, you told you got a good angel watching over you. She repeated it many times because I had many encounters like that, like the last minute I was saved. I used to go out through that place. I used to go out through an old cemetery, and I was scared of cemeteries. And I used to go out through the cemetery just to be able to bring some food back home. And the third place where I used to go out was a building what was the courthouse. For one side was the Jewish side, because it was separated with that street, what I said was underneath that thing. And the other side was the Gentile side. Used to go in the court, sit down, listen to those procedures, be talked about it, whatever. So people shouldn't see me go in and go straight through. So I was sitting there. Then when I saw it safe enough, I went the other side and tried to sell and buy some food and bring back home. By the streets in the ghetto, horrible. Lots of dead people, starving people. Nobody was able to collect all those dying people because everybody was in bad shape. It was horrible. I went once to visit my cousins and the family. They all have been in a bed, starving. And I didn't have nothing to give them. Nothing. Because whatever I could bring home, bought for my own family. But that picture of them lying there in bed cannot get out of my mind. Till today, I still can see vivid how it looks like. That was horrible. That was horrible. Well, I don't know, young ladies, you would know how a mother feels when she pampered and loved her children and told them, go on your own, save yourself if you can. Can you imagine the pain, what she must have felt? But this, she said, that is the only way, maybe, you can save yourself. My older sister did not want to go. She did not. She was scared because she had darker hair and not blonde and not blue eyes. So my younger sister and I, we went just out. Where should we go? Decided maybe we will drive out to some villages. They may need people to work for them. So she went in one direction, I went in the other, and we came in touch through letters. I don't remember if I have what she has. We still have letters, what we wrote to each other from one place to the other. And when fall came, it was time to get rid of us. They didn't need us for fall. So what do? I wrote her to come to me, and we both will decide what to do. Right? She stopped over at Warsaw Ghetto. It wasn't there anymore. All the people have been killed or put in jails or whatever happened to the ghetto was gone. And the woman I worked for was a very bad person. I was so emaciated that I was bent over like an old lady, and my sister hardly recognized me when she saw me. She just couldn't believe it. So we said, what are we going to do? Now, winter's coming. No clothes, no food, no home. We said, the best thing, go to the Germans, tell who we are, let them fix it, let them kill us, because we don't see anymore a way out. But like my mother mentioned, you got a good angel. It came an order for every Polish family should send a child for forced labor to Germany. When that order came, they came begging us if we want to go instead of their children. We actually say yes, we were happy to go, it didn't matter. We got the papers, their child's papers. We kept on corresponding by letters, and they wrote to us, dear daughter, and I wrote to parents, dear parents. So it's always something to show if somebody should tell about that we are not the people we say we are. Well, that was since 42 to the end of the war. My sister we both worked in a small town in Germany called Eckenförde. Those are the pictures from Eckenförde. And we worked in the Torpedoversuchsanstalt. I was on that, whatever you call it, transporting torpedoes for one part of the factories to the other where they finished them up, and then I took them out where they shoot them in the ocean to see if they are okay. My sister was working with that, what you transport things, what you call it? Electrically, you transport the item from one place to the other.
Conveyor belt?
I think so, sure. And she was very young then, was 16. And constantly using that arm, she got the right side very crooked. Never went straight because she was growing with that and constantly using the thing. And we've been there to the end of the war. And at the end of the war, we saw the English airplanes came to bombard the place, because it was a factory of torpedoes. They want to bombard it. And the Germans then told us to hide because they didn't want to lose workers. They want us to be able to work for them. But we didn't hide. We made believe we ran out of bed, put the covers over this side, made believe that we went away, but we were underneath the covers, and when they went away, we went outside to look at how they were throwing phosphor on Kiel and Hamburg. That's the closest big cities from Eckerförde where we stayed.
When was
Question?
when was the last time do you remember the last time you saw your mother before you had to leave?
When she told us, that was in the beginning of 42, when she told us to go and look a place for ourselves, try to save ourselves.
And were you in the ghetto at that time with her, or was she outside?
She was in the ghetto, and we left. We left, my sister and I, we left.
And what happened to your father?
My father, when in the beginning of the war, he was doing business before the war with bakeries. I think he was kind of a businessman and with delivering flour. I don't know exactly, but as a kid I was not interested in what everybody did. So he went to look for food for us, since he had connections with people. And in Poland the winters were very cold, 40 degrees below zero. And he slipped in one place and fall down and was half frozen before he came home. And then got pneumonia, and he passed away. He passed away then, trying to find food for us. Things like that stay with you. No matter how old you get, they stay.
How did you emotionally cope with all of this? How did you emotionally cope with all of this, having to be so independent?
At the time, it was just to find a way to survive. Later, after the war, we start emotionally thinking about it and unable to forget it. Just live with it.
I have so many questions. When you first moved into the ghetto, what were the first
Where to?
the ghetto?
Uh-huh.
What were the first shocks? That having what were you first?
Too many people together, not enough space together. People on the street dying, actually dying, and there was nobody to help them. It was horrible. It was just plain horrible.
And
going to see other people, going to see that was happening, and being just a kid unable to do anything about it, just to help a little, to bring a little food home for your own family. It's really hard now to comprehend how we could do it at the time when we did it. I don't know. It's a question what has never been able to answer. And we did it. And many times, those Polish people have been seeing us going through any place and pointing to the Germans on us. And somehow, like that angel, nothing happened. We just kept on going, and nothing happened to us. I think about it. For me, myself, it's hard to believe it now.
did you make any friends while you were in the ghetto?
Friends, we had not time to have friends, to have parties, to do something nice. All our minds what's going to happen next. Because talk about liquidating the ghetto was constant. the able men were every day took to jobs, whatever manual jobs they needed them to do. In the evening they were brought back. And when the Germans threw the bombs, we used to go and hide someplace. But otherwise, it's nothing we could have done about it. It's nothing. And I don't have too much love for the Polish people. I had 2 cousins. They actually wrote a book after the war about it. They were children about 11, 12. And they, for some, I don't know how they thought about it, they've been selling cigarettes on the corner of one street. Ratska, I think it was called. They were selling cigarettes till one time the Germans took all those boys together and took them to Germany or someplace. And the Polish kids pointed out to the Germans that those 2 guys are Jews. And the Germans, it seems that some Germans have been just people like others. Not every German was out to kill. So they said to those Polish kids, you've been working with them together. You went through all kinds of stuff together. How come you're pointing them out to us as Jews? They couldn't believe it. But Polish people were bad people. Plain and simple. Bad people. We had one occasion where one of the women what my mother used to shop for vegetables and fruits, she saw what's happening, that we will be sent out next morning to the ghetto. She told my mother, tell the girls to bring everything into my place. They can stay overnight, and in the morning, when all those people are already gone away, they can go and bring the stuff, and you will have your own stuff. Well, my mother believed her. My older sister and I, we stayed behind in her house. And in the morning, she said, you just get out before I go to the Germans and tell them who you are. So we didn't ask for nothing but the pictures. At least we have some pictures from the family. She said, I burned those Jews instead of giving them to you. Pictures. How can you feel anything good about the Polish people? Nothing.
What language did you speak? Would you speak Polish, or did your family speak Yiddish?
We have, at home we spoke Yiddish, but we spoke Polish. We read a lot. Our language was perfect in Polish, better than many of the Polish kids because of reading.
And did you ever have a positive, if I can say positive, encounter with Germans? Did they ever help you, either while you were in Poland or Germany?
When we were in Poland with the Germans, no, we never came in touch for them to do anything, except that one time, what I said, at the streetcar, they helped us. But otherwise, yes, one time, yeah. Where we lived, the woman what owned the condos, she wanted our place because she liked it. She brought a German friend and just told us, get out. Leave everything behind, just get out. What could we do? It was nothing for a Jewish person to do in those days to complain because there was nobody to complain to. Everything was against us. I don't have any good things to say about the Polish. Not a word. Mm-mm.
And when you first moved into the camp, did there slowly become more and more rules and restrictions?
You mean in Germany?
No, in Warsaw, in the ghetto.
In the ghetto? I don't know. I don't remember. But all what I was then concerned with is going out and being able to sell stuff from home, like you have different stuff at home, and bring some food. But otherwise, I really don't remember much. I remember seeing some bombs falling down on buildings, but others I don't really remember.
And your trip from Poland to Germany, can you recall any of how you traveled from Poland?
I know when we got those papers from the other people, they took us in one place for all to concentrate. All those people were going to work in Germany, and they took us in that place in Warsaw. And over there we met quite a few Jews, was all the way on false papers. Was a little girl. She must have been about 13, I suppose. She thought, because she was so young, she probably didn't have too much brain. She thought if she will point out who she thinks is Jewish, she will save herself. When she started to say, "Oh, I know who is Jewish here," I went straight to her and said, listen, you are such a young kid. I don't believe that your mother willingly sent you out. I believe that you are Jewish, and you better don't talk about it. She shut up. I didn't talk more about it because I had the spot, because she was a Jewish kid. And in that place where we went all together, waiting for us to be sent to Germany, since I told you I was in that village in the emaciated, they say the Germans would not want me to work for them because I was too sickly looking. So this guy said, "You know what? I will fatten you up here and keep you another month so you will be able to go to Germany." So I said, my sister was with me, but we had different papers. I said, "That's my cousin. I promised her mother that I will watch over her." So I said, "Okay, I will keep her also." And they kept us another month and get plenty of food. So I gained some weight, was able to go to Germany. And we landed in Eckenförde. Both of us worked in those torpedoes factories, and one of our friends what we met also on that in Warsaw was a Jewish guy, and he came also to Germany and he worked also in the torpedoes. He kind of fell in love with my sister, but she didn't like it. So he said to me, I said to him, because she asked me to, I said, "Leave her alone, she doesn't care for you." You can make somebody like more or less. He said, "All right, since she doesn't want this way, since we know that we are Jews, let me help you as a brother." I said, "That's okay." And he was a smart guy, because after the war, when he came to New York, first things, he worked daytime, went study nighttime, he got to be a nuclear engineer. What they used him, later sent him to Switzerland, where we visited him over there later. He was a very smart guy, and he acted as a brother. He helped us with food stamps. Somehow he knew where to go, how to order. It was, one part of it was good, that we had somebody else that could help out.
What were the living conditions like in these factories? What were the living conditions like? And how long did you work?
It was not too bad. We lived in a camp. It was 10 girls, double beds in a room. But we all worked. It was not too bad, except that my sister and I, we came from a religious home. We never used coarse words. and we were not used to it. And over there were girls what enjoy seeing us embarrassed when they use those words. So they start doing it on purpose. That was one girl, also Jewish. She saw what's happening, and she was a feisty one. She took care of us like she was our mother. Didn't let anybody bother or using all those words. And she was really great. She was a smart girl. She said, after the war, I want to meet a Frenchman, go to France, and then drop him off, and I will do my way myself. I bet you she did well, but we didn't have stayed in touch after that.
And did you become close with the women in the factory?
Well, just like with people you work together. We couldn't get too close because we had a secret. We were not what we supposed to be. It's different names, so we couldn't come too close. But we were friends. It was okay. We didn't have anything terrible. We didn't have anything great, but it was average. It was okay. That way was the easiest way, I guess, to live through the war, because we had once a day cooked meal, and the rest we had portions given for the whole week. So much bread, so much something else. But when I was driving that I don't know how to call it, that vehicle with the torpedoes from place to place, I saw Russian soldiers, what they were called by the Germans, and they were in worse shape than us. They had not shoes on, they had some rocks around their feet. And when I saw one, and I drove by, I had my little sandwich for later, for the whole week. I gave it to him because I couldn't stand seeing him. And that was my mistake, actually, because he was waiting every day for me to do it. I couldn't give him every day my own because I wouldn't have nothing else for myself. I used to go at the tables where we ate together and ask for everybody give me a piece. I say for those people who were waiting for me, because I did that one time, give them something and they just waiting. So this way I could every day give him something, not much, because we didn't have much, but something. Next question.
How did you cope with firstly, did you have a sense of the amount of death and massacre that was happening while working in the factory, or do you feel like the Germans protected you from the reality?
I didn't have any idea what's going on, but since my sister, when she came in Poland to come together, she told me that the ghetto was finished. So we didn't know what's going on, what's happening to the people, nothing at all. Nothing. Been in there in that Polish camp, with the workers. Actually, the workers were not Polish all. It was a lot of different countries what they took in. It was one Polak what made a list of who he suspect are Jews, and take it to the guy, to the commandant, how you say it, to the head of that camp where we lived, with a list. That are the Jews. He knows, he is Polish, he knows that those are Jews. He took the same, another list, and took it to the guy. This was where we lived, took it to the guy where we worked, with the same list. But one of those translators at the office where he took it was a Jewish girl, also as a Polish girl. when she saw what's happening, she was a very smart girl. She didn't say about the list anything, but she said to the guy who she worked for, the boss, she said, "Did you notice that he's a spy?" He said, "What do you mean?" He takes out, they had maps on on a very fine material, Batiste, I don't know if that tells you anything, very fine maps from different things, what they did. So when he cleaned out there the officers, and when they throw away those maps, he picked them out and sold them to us girls for food so we can make some underwear for us to wear, because we didn't get nothing there. But that girl, that translator, she was smart. She said, "Did you see him pick out those maps? Watch him. He's a spy." He sent them to the English. And they watched him. They saw him picking out those maps. But they didn't know what the reason he does, so they believed her. He was sent to concentration camp instead of us. You always have to have smart people to know how to handle different situations.
And how did you disguise, you're Jewish by your culture, and your mother raised you Jewish and you had a very religious family. How were you able to come off as such a Polish citizen?
I think plainly by thinking that's the only way we can save our lives. I cannot put exactly in the words what I was thinking then, but I assume that this way we thought that's the only way we can save ourselves, to act the way we acted, and that's it.
And would the Germans ever question you, or?
No. They once they questioned this guy, what I said, what later on was been like our brother. They asked him, and he was smart. I said he was smart. He was bold. They know that Jews were circumcised, but not the Gentiles. So they said, it's been pointed out to us that you're a Jew. He said, "Okay, you want me to drop my pants?" Both like that. But they said, "Oh, forget it," because he was so sure-like of himself that they just, "Oh, forget it," and that was it. You had to use wits. You had to be so smart. And sometimes you don't know if you're smart. It's just, I think, an instinct to save yourself. So you say or do stuff, but you save yourself without realizing that that's the only way you're saving yourself.
This might be a strange question, but how did your relationship to food change? Because I remember you said when you were young you didn't like food. Do you feel that after being hungry for so long that your sense of wanting food definitely shifted?
I don't know that. I really don't remember what to say about food. I really don't. That's a good question, because I didn't like food when I was a kid. I told you, my mother thought, in those days people didn't think that children have their own mind. She tried to put the egg in the ice cream cone that I would believe is ice cream and eat it. And eat it. No, I didn't like kitchen, I didn't like. When mother was cooking, I went outside with the book, spread out on the grass, read. She had a hard time with me, feeding me. I was really, when I came here to the country, I had the 2 guys already, 2 sons, and I weighed 98 pounds. So I was always.
Did you have books while you were working in the factory? Were you ever able to read?
In Germany, I taught myself to read German.
And how did you acquire books?
Oh, I probably ask about them. Because I read them. And I actually told myself, it's 2 kinds of German writing. You got the Gothic. That's an old way of writing. and it's not easy to read because it got all those curlicles, fancy letters. I learned to read that and the other, and I had books, and I read good books. The best writers, if you want to mention any, I read. Russian writers like Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, and all those, I read Pushkin. I read Dumas and the father Dumas, that's the French writers. I read Mann, Sinclair, anything you can mention, I read. I read probably thousands of books, I suppose, through my lifetime.
And towards the end of the war, could you sense a shift in
Today,
towards the end of the war? Did you sense a shift at all in the way the Germans were treating you, or how your daily work would go, or was it all of a sudden that Allies appeared?
well, I didn't, being in Germany, I didn't experience anything bad. I didn't, because I wasn't as a Jewish girl. And the only thing was, when after the war, when we met, my husband and I, and we got married, and in 48, our first son was born. Then I was thinking about it. There you got, it's 48. The war finished not too long ago. The same German doctor what probably killed Jews is going now have to take care of me as a Jewish woman with a child. And that was the only one I could get, no others. And I was thinking about it, but I didn't have any choice. That was it. And you think about it. Your brains never stop working. You say the same guy, maybe a few months ago, was sending our children to camp to being gassed or whatever, and now I have to depend on him to tell me the right stuff how to raise my child, because I didn't know. I breastfed him to about 6 months. I said, isn't that time to give him some food? Oh yeah, you can do this or that. It didn't come easy for him. I had to ask. And I didn't know how to ask, because over there in Eckernförde, we didn't have any family with children. We didn't. We were the only married couple, actually. The first Passover after the war, I forgot to mention, my husband's brother, he came with the English. He was an English soldier. He came with the English to Germany, into Eckernförde. And I went once, before we knew each other, I went with that friend of ours, that guy, all the way from northern Germany, all the way south, west, and back, collecting books with names of Jewish people, survivors from the war. And I brought it to the English gave a home for some survivors. We bought the books there. That when my husband's brother found his brother and his 2 sisters through the books. This is how we met.
Can we just go back a little? I have a few more questions about the ghetto. Can you recall how long a period you spent in the ghetto before you went to go work in the countryside?
The ghetto started in 1939, right away, a few months after they came in, until 1942. In 1942, we went to Germany. 1942, yes.
And so your time spent in the countryside was not. Can you recall any of those? What you did for work there? Can you remember any of that?
What I did yes, I remember. I worked in the village. I was a city kid. I didn't know how to take care of animals. And she sent me out with the cows. The other kids noticed that I wouldn't know one cow from the other. And they mix them up and then say, go ahead, find yours. That wasn't a task I could do. I didn't know one from the other. One day she sent a horse also. And I didn't know that you cannot go too close to a horse. And I went after him just like after the cows, pretty close, go on. And he kicked me in my chest. I fall backwards. And the kids finally realized that something wrong. They revived me because I was unconscious because of that. All kinds of stuff you people were surprised to hear. What else?
Can you talk more about the lady you worked for while you were in that village?
Yeah, she was a bad person. She used me up to all kind of work. She didn't feed me. I told you I wasn't emaciated. She didn't feed me. I had to steal bread, to being able to go on. And she put me to sleep in the barn. And you know what that means? Till today I'm scared of mice. Because in the barn where she had the food for the animals, there was plenty of them. And that gave me the creeps. I was scared till today. If I just say the word mouse, it shoots me up. She was a bad person. She knew she could do whatever she wants to, use me up how much she wants to, because she knew she guessed who I am. And she knows nothing can happen to her. And it's like my mother said, a good angel. Then came the order to send their children to Germany. Then one family took me in, the other took my sister in. They fed us up a little bit to be able to show that we are able to work. Put clothes on us, give us some clothes, and they were good to us. Well, we helped them, they helped us.
And can you recall any of the stories that your sister would tell you in the letters that she wrote while you guys were separated?
To whom?
Can you remember what your sister was telling you in the letters when you were separated at first?
She probably, I couldn't tell you exactly, but she probably talked about her job. Yeah, one sad thing she told me. 2 of my cousins, guys, also went to look for jobs like that. They found jobs in the villages. Then one Polak pointed out of one of the brothers that he's a Jew. The Germans killed him right there at the spot next to his brother. Polacks are bad people. Primitive, stupid, and bad. All my compliments for them. Bad people.
And how did you cope with all this emotion? Would you find yourself being strong, or how did
I
you go
probably
through?
didn't think how I find myself strong or not. All I was probably thinking, what I think now, all I probably was thinking to survive. No philosophical thoughts. Not then. Then we just had to survive.
But you never lost hope?
Never thought about hope. Because when we finished at the villages, we stood there, what do we do now? Oh, let's go to the Germans, tell who we are, let them finish off. We don't know what to do. And then came that order, and that's it. It's more luck than brains.
You had a guardian angel, that's for sure. You had a guardian angel.
That's what my mother used to say. You got a good angel watching over you. Oh, many places, many tight spots. Somehow, I always came out okay. The Polacks saw me going out from here and they point me out to the Germans, or going out from there, or want to take away the stuff what I had. I didn't want to give them because I needed it to sell. And then somebody was always there to help out. I don't know, just like a miracle. Just like a miracle. Well, I probably was to make another generation and have my family grow. In spite of everything else, we made it. And we didn't have it easy. We actually, like I told you, we went from country to country, and each time we had to start from scratch. We came to the United States for $4 in our pockets. 4. But we raised our children. They all have not just college degrees, they got masters in their subjects, what they did. And we are very proud of it. We made it. We made it. In spite of everything else, we made it. All 3. You don't know what to ask?
I think I have some questions
Yeah.
that, like, to clarify and make sure we, like, really understand, like, putting together all the different steps. So, when did you first, okay, I'm gonna go back. So
Okay.
before you went to the ghetto and you're still living in your home,
Yes.
what was the first time you said there was a bomb that went? That was
Yes.
the first
the
sign
first
of any
time when I
Germans?
noted that we knew by papers that the war started.
Oh, okay, so you read in the papers that the war started.
Right, but I actually saw bombs demolishing homes.
Mhm.
And when we went to look for food, like I said, stay in the line for bread, I could hear the bombs falling down, and some people were scared and ran away from the line, and I moved forward. For some reason, I was never scared. For some reason, I actually never was scared. That just hit me now. I just wasn't scared. Just went along as it came.
Mhm. And did you ever see any Germans in your neighborhood, or was it just the bombs that?
Germans later came in.
Mhm.
Once they read Warsaw and they break through the soldiers, the Poles. I lost a brother, my oldest brother, was a soldier. Because he was 21 when the war started, and he was, by 21 you have to go in the army.
Mhm.
And later on, they told us that he got killed over there.
So did your oldest brother leave to join the army before you went to the ghetto, or after? When did he leave?
To the army,
Mhm.
right? He went before, because he was 21 before the war started. He was actually in the army when the war started.
Okay, he was already in the army.
Yeah, he was in the army then.
Okay.
And did you notice when they started to build and section off the ghetto? Or did you only realize that once you had moved in there that they had built the ghetto?
Oh, we knew about it. We knew that they were going to go in the ghetto. We first were sent to a small ghetto outside Warsaw. Outside.
Do you remember what it was called? Do you remember the
No.
name?
No, it was it's like 1,000 from here. That was from Warsaw. And one thing what I do remember, cannot forget. When I stood with that Polish woman, they had, and we didn't go with to the ghetto, because we were with that Polish woman supposedly next morning to get our stuff. They make all the people line up and start going. Was a small boy holding his mother's hand. He was limping. He must have stepped on something or whatever. He was limping. And the German just took a gun and shot him right there. Right there. It's a picture you can never forget. Never.
Do you remember what you thought in that moment when you saw that little boy shot?
But I thought, that's horrible. What can you think? I don't remember my particular thoughts, but till today I think that's horrible. The child holding mother's hand. and so brutally killed.
Do you remember the reaction of the mother?
What I don't remember exactly, but what I can think about it, it must have been horrible, but I don't remember because I was horrified just seeing it. So I probably didn't follow what's happening after that because myself being horrified to see something like that, it was probably the first killing I saw. Later on in ghetto though, I saw a lot of it. In ghetto. Lots of people lying on the streets dead from hunger, from thirst, from negligence. It's enough for ghetto? I hope.
How did you guys keep yourself clean and take care of clothes within the ghetto? Was it near impossible?
Well, we were lucky enough to have an apartment. And life, mother made life as normal as could have been made. As normal as could have been made.
And what was that like?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but it must have been hard. Must have been hard, but I remember just those horror stories. I remember we lived in a street that overlooked the border, like between the ghetto and that. And little children want to bring some food, like we used to do, bring in. Some being killed right there by the crossings. I don't have good memories from those days, not at all.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing them with us.
What'd you say?
Thank you so much for sharing them with us. We know they're difficult
This isn't
memories.
easy to remember, but we appreciate it so much.
Well, my daughter told me, Mom, whoever wants to interview what you went through, you just go and tell them because people have to know. This is what you said, and this is what I'm.
And do you think you could go through as best you could the typical day when you were working in the factory, from when you would wake up, whether you would have breakfast, and then how long you would
Oh, you
work?
mean in the torpedo factory?
Mhm.
It was more or less pretty normal. We had those bunk beds. We have those bunk beds, about 10 girls in the room. And the only thing what I remember was viciously done was the guy what had overlooked the camp. Sunday morning, when we had the only day we could sleep longer, he sometimes came with a water hose, spray the beds out of the bed. Just was vicious. He was just plain bad person. But he didn't do it every Sunday. Sometimes, whenever he felt like it.
We're running out of.
Did you try and remember?
You know what's aggravating being old? I put away that
The passport papers?
what I could show you. I cannot find it. And it's so aggravating.
When you least expect it, you'll find it.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere.
Has to be, because I even looked through the disposables, because we put disposables once a week out front. I have the bag full of disposable. Not even there.
So you left off speaking about this water hosing on Sundays.
Yes.
Were there any other experiences
Except
like
that guy what has made a list of us for us to be sent to concentration camp. And like I said, the woman saved us. So other ways, life was more or less normal. Got up in the morning. Yeah, we did not have showers, but you need to get washed. We had a big, like a trough with horses drink, you know, the
Trough.
long way. We would go into that, turn on the faucet with cold water, no water, warm water. Till today, I like, when I take a hot shower, I like a cold shower after that, because I got used to that. Today I take a hot shower, And right after that, I take a real cold shower. I got used to it over there.
And did they give you specific clothes to wear when you were working in the factory?
Actually, no. Whatever we got, they bought rags, you know, not used rags. Rags what came from the factory leftovers to clean those torpedoes. We used to take some of those rags, wash them out, and whichever way we could, we sew underwear for ourselves. It was one foreman, German, and he felt sorry for us. He invited me to his house. He has a daughter my age, he said, but she's taller and I can take her clothes. But I was brought up not to take anything from anybody. I said, thank you, but I don't want. He couldn't get it. Why don't you want to? You need it. Then my sister started talking to me. We do need it. I say, if you come with me, then we got there. We went there, and his wife and daughter actually were a really nice to us and gave us some clothes, but she grew out of just because he felt he wants to help us. You had some decent guys over there too. I don't know if I mentioned it, was one guy, he was stealing food stamps to give it out to the workers, the foreign workers. When I passed by on that, whatever it's called, on that vehicle, he stopped me. I have something for you. I said, what? He gave me stamps. I said, I don't want any. He said, what do you mean you don't want any? You can buy bread and you can buy cakes, whatever you want to. I gave it to everybody. I say, go ahead, give it to everybody, but I'm not taking anything. He couldn't get it. Neither can I now. But then, I just couldn't take nothing from anybody. I had to do it all on my own. Stupid, isn't it?
And did you have other experiences other than the Russian who you used to bring food to? Were there other people that relied on you to provide for them?
No. But because there were the Germans working there, they had Germans working for them also, what they bought from different parts of the country to work on the torpedoes. And there were other foreigners, but they didn't look so miserable like the Russians. It was seems like, yes, what evenings we used to eat with all those foreign workers together, long tables in the hall. I said we had once a day a cooked meal. That was the meal in the evening after that. But I was sorry for a lot of those guys because they had from Holland. Holland, you know where Holland is, Europe? They are tall people. And they got the same little portion what we got, short girls. Same little food. And I was looking at them, I said, sorry for those guys, they probably could eat 10 times or more than that. And we had from all different countries forced labor to work for the Germans because the Germans took all those young men to the war as soldiers. They took even 15, 16-year-old their own as soldiers. So they needed people to work those factories for them. And they had plenty of places where they went in. They went into Poland, Czechoslovakia, Holland, Belgium, France. They went into many countries and got the people.
Can you describe sleeping in a room with so many people, what that was like? Never being alone.
I tell you what, I probably must have been so tired and being young, went to sleep and nothing happened. because I don't recall anything specific. So it must have been normal. Normal could be that. The only thing what I do remember is that language. And that girl who took part to shield us from that language. Look at primitive people, plain people. Well, the world is of all kinds of people. Anything else?
So you lived with the people who you shared the room with while you were at the factory. Where were they from? From everywhere, or
I think they're just from Poland.
just from Poland?
Yes.
So you
because-
would speak in Polish with them.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And tell you what, girls, we have to watch our language shouldn't be too good for them, because those girls were mostly from villages, and their language was definitely different from ours. And if we want to be safe, we had to watch out every expression we used, how to say. You know, when you read a lot, your language is different. If you noticed or not, but you express yourself differently. And they didn't read. I said, we wrote some letters for their parents, for them, because they didn't know how to write even, some of them. Plain girls.
Can you describe the vehicle that you drove that transported when you were at the factory? What was the vehicle that you drove like?
Yes, this what it's hard for me to explain. It's like a contraption. You stay in the front of it. With the right hand, you direct. And with the foot, the left foot was like a brakes. You could brake it. And the torpedoes, they were, I don't know the expression in English, Kugellage. It's like a round thing, you put a hanger on that. You know what?
It almost sounds like you're describing a hitch. Would it connect?
Yes,
then you
but
could
what you call that thing?
The hitch?
Um,
That's what it's called.
because the torpedoes have been long, so they've been put on that thing,
So they're attached.
attached,
Okay.
right. For the evening, when we were finished working, we plugged in that front electrically, so we had power for next day working on it, because it was electric. I don't know what.
Did you know how to drive beforehand, or did you have to learn
No.
how to?
I'm very easy to learn to drive. I was driving everything in my life. First I was driving, but then that thing. When we came to Israel, I was driving a horse, with a horse and wagon. Here I was driving a car. So I was driving once in Israel a mule in the front of it. Why are you laughing? Because a mule is a mule. It was a piece of newspaper in the front of him. He did not want to cross it. I could pull and whatever words I used, nothing. I had to get off, take the paper away. Then he kept on going.
And how did they select you to drive the truck instead of what was the selection process?
Oh, you mean in Germany?
Mhm.
They ask who wants to drive, who wants to clean. I was the first. I said, I want to drive. I want to clean. And I broke my tooth, this one, up because I was too close to the front and I hit the wall when I learned to drive. And it broke off. That was the first expression.
Did you hurt the vehicle when you crashed into the wall? Or?
No, the vehicle didn't
The
get
vehicle
hurt.
was
just
fine,
my
just your
tooth.
tooth.
Well, I got a whole football club there.
No.
Right.
And so you mentioned this guy who was with you in Germany who became to be like
Like
a
a
brother
brother,
to you.
right.
Can you describe a little more about him? How did you meet him? Like,
Well, we met them in Warsaw, at that place where they put all the young
Okay.
people together. And when we realized he's Jewish, we're Jewish, then we've made like a family, like I said, he's going there. So, and we have we stayed with him in touch until he passed away this year, actually.
Mm.
Like I said, when after the war, we went to Israel. He went to the States. He went to work. He studied nuclear engineering. He got a great job. Later on, when we came to the States, wherever he went, he married twice or three times, but it never worked out for him. Kind of truth, he was boring, like my sister said.
So how did you know he was Jewish when you were?
How we know?
Yeah.
That is hard to explain. It's just like the Polacks used to say, this is a Jew and this is this. We knew that too.
Mhm.
It's somehow, we knew, like
Yeah.
through instinct. It's nothing but you could point out to.
And were you separated at the factory? Did he work somewhere else? How did you manage to stay in contact?
The factory was at the Baltic Sea. I was working on one side of the Baltic Sea, bringing those torpedoes to the point where they shoot them out, to try them out. My sister and him actually worked on the other side of the bay, where they did different kind of works. My sister with that, I don't know what it's called, transporting from one place to the other. It's electrical,
Oh, an electrical signal for a message?
not
or
a signal, transporting the torpedoes, but let's see, from the
from one place to another.
Well, didn't they used to have things that transported?
I don't know how it's called. Maybe today that is antique.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And how long was it till you saw your sister again, since you were working in separate places? How long till you saw your sister again, since you were working in
Oh,
separate
she
places?
came every evening back.
Every evening.
Yes, every evening they came back with the boat. They went by boat, and they came every evening back.
Did you stay in the same room as your sister?
Yes, definitely.
And was it nice for you to have her there? Like, what was your relationship like during that time?
With my sister,
Yeah.
it was like I was responsible for her.
Because she's your younger sister.
She was 3 years younger. Oh, she's still here. She is in Israel. She lives in Israel. We used to see each other every year. Or she used to come here, or we used to go there. But now that we both old ladies, we don't feel like traveling.
Yeah.
But we talk on the phone.
So in what way did you feel responsible? Were there any choices that you had to make because of her? Or?
I just felt responsible, like taking care of she should be in some uncomfortable position or whatever. I was there, right there.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I'm her mother.
Yeah.
You better don't listen to it, because you're going to get tired of it.
I know the story.
Do you have any other comments that you want to express before we wrap up this?
I think I have a few.
Yeah,
Like
go
what?
First. Sorry, I have so many
No, no,
questions. Do you know what happened with the rest of your family, or was the last time you saw them when you left for the countryside?
When I left Poland, my father wasn't living then anymore, and I don't know what's happened to my mother and all the sisters. No, I don't know. When my younger sister, the one who lives in Israel, came to visit me at the village to see what we can do. Here, Bernard. Bernard. Law.
Yeah. Who is it?
I don't know. You
Oh.
said give me.
Hi,
It's
Anna.
Anna, our daughter. She called after work. She always calls up here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll finish up
okay,
soon
alright.
here.
Okay. Okay.
So how
Okay. Bye-bye.
how did you get? So you said
Call her
you're-
later.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
you were originally in a smaller ghetto, and then you moved to the larger ghetto.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
Well, the small ghettos, they sprang up just to collect the Jews in one place. Then when they decided on the big ghetto in Warsaw, then they told everybody to march over there. To march, This why when the Polish woman said to bring everything in, so and I with all the sisters to stay behind so we can bring some stuff with us because it was too dangerous to carry. It was miles and miles to go from a small ghetto into Warsaw Ghetto. Miles to go. And whoever couldn't make it, they shot just without any twice thinking about it. People fall back, couldn't walk.
So did you stay with your entire family as you marched together? What was that experience like? That you marched from the smaller ghetto to the larger ghetto with your family?
No. My younger sister went with my mother,
Mm-hmm.
and the older sister stayed with me for the next day, where the woman promised she to give us our
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
And then we went through the ghetto. I really couldn't tell you, ladies, how we went into the ghetto on our own. I don't remember that. But after being in the ghetto, I remember that I was still always going out different ways through that building, court building, to the cemetery, through underneath the wide. I was always going on. And the fact is, for some reason, I was never scared. I was never afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I don't know. What made me so sure of myself, but never had time probably to think about it, to be scared.
Can you describe the place where you lived while you were in the ghetto? You said you lived in an apartment while you were in the Warsaw Ghetto.
When we were in Warsaw Ghetto,
Mm-hmm.
we lived in an apartment. Like I said, the apartment actually had windows going out at one place where it was the border between the Gentiles and us. From our window, we could see children trying to come in with food. They were killing them on the border. From our window, we could observe those things. And after that, I used to do the same thing myself, not thinking about it. I didn't go through that place, I went through different other places.
Yeah, how did you decide where you were going to go out? Did you hear people talking about different places, or would you walk around and see?
I probably was thinking that we need food. And that was it probably, but I cannot tell you exactly what I thought.
And when you would go out, what kind of food would you be able to bring back?
Probably the basics. I couldn't remember telling you exactly, but I assume the basics. Probably because I remember when I went out, I used the streetcars, those electric streetcars, to go out and so far out, and then whatever I used to the villages and sell the stuff and get some food. And sometimes driving through the ghetto, I used to jump off with the food in the middle when I was on the ghetto side. I learned to do it very good, because when you jump off, you have to go in the same direction as otherwise you fall back. Some things come so with the instinct, you don't think much about it. I think when you need to, you just do it. Just plain do it.
Looking back at the times that you did sneak out, do you remember any moments other than when you went under the fence that you thought, you might be caught?
I never thought about it. I just didn't think. I just did what probably at those days I thought I have to do. I never thought of being scared. I never. You see, also in our lives after the war, we started out in Germany not having a thing, and we managed. Then we went to Israel, not knowing the language and not having a thing, and we managed. Then we came here, the same thing, with $4 in our pockets, and we were able to let our children get educated, having great lives on their own, enjoying their children, grandchildren. What can I ask for more? with that.
Do you have anything else you want to share? Or?
Without questions, I don't know what you want to know.
We want to know anything.
Like what?
Looking back now at that time during the war, do you have any,
What I would do different?
not what you would do different, but I almost want to say the traumatic experiences, do you find that they have an effect on you today? Do you have dreams?
Well, I don't have dreams, but I was told by my children that this is what I am overprotected. When they travel, they have to call me where they are if they came okay, because our family travels a lot. The two of us, we traveled a lot after the war, a lot. Different countries, I don't mean just in the States. We went to Europe many times, to different countries many times. And we had that, did you ever hear that expression, chutzpah?
Mm-hmm.
You know what that means?
You should explain it, please.
Well, it's more than guts. You just go. You don't know what will happen, but you just go. You just go. When we traveled, we didn't know, let's see, we traveled to Europe. We knew German, but we didn't know English. We didn't know any other language then, except Jewish and Polish. My husband didn't speak Polish and German. But when we came to the airport, we rented a car at the airport. We went down driving. That's a chutzpah. And we never thought twice that maybe we will not find where we want to go. It never crossed our minds. My husband was an excellent direction finder. If I would drive, I would get lost the next step. I don't have a sense of direction, but he had an excellent sense of directions. We could drive to any country. We drove once from southern Italy all the way to Paris. Because you have to excuse me, I have to go back.
Now that I have chocolate in my mouth.
Now that we
Once more, just to solidify up the dates, do you know what year it was when you left Germany and went to the factory?
Left Poland.
Left Poland, so 1942, would you say?
When
You left to go to the factory.
In 42 we went to Germany. Then we went straight to Eckenfelder.
Mm-hmm.
And over there to the factories. That was straight ahead.
And can you talk about, do you know what the reason behind your mother suddenly telling you to leave and go to the village?
Sure. Like any mother, most of the mothers love their children. And she said that's the only way you may save yourself. Staying with me, she said, you see what's happening. Until today, when I talk about it, I think about her heart. Letting her two protected, cocooned daughters go on their own. That must have been, well, a sacrifice, the biggest.
And how much did the environment in the ghetto change from when you went to when your mother asked you to leave? Was it very drastic? Was that why she asked you to leave?
Yes, because it was, you could see that people on the streets, starving people, was not enough. The Germans came to throw bombs on those places where they knew they still hiding. It was a bad time, horrible time. And then when she said, that's the only way that we may save ourselves. And this is what we did, and this is what happened. We saved ourselves, and we're still here.
Did you resist leaving at first? Did you resist leaving your mother at first?
Okay, sure. I tried not to go, but when we were in the big ghetto with my older sister, she wanted us to go out. She wanted badly for us to save ourselves because she insisted she's not going to move. She just was afraid. So she said she's going to stay with the uncle's family for us to go. And I didn't want to move. I said, I'm not going to leave you behind. I'm not going to leave you behind. She thought about ways how to convince me. Finally, she said, you know, we didn't hear from Mother for a long time. You have to go and find out how she's doing. And that did the trick. Sure, I had to go and see how Mother's doing. That's how she got me out to get out of the ghetto.
And where was your mother?
In a different kind, in a small, before they moved all the small ghettos into Warsaw Ghetto.
And how long were you and your mother not together during that period before you went to see her?
I cannot tell you, no. Because we went to the village first and then in that ghetto, I really don't know for how long it was.
And do you remember who your mother was living with at that time when you
Yes.
went to visit her?
We have some family there. It was uncles or cousins or some of Mother's relatives. We didn't see them often before the war. But during the war, she went to them because that was the only way she could have stayed there.
Do you remember what it was like seeing her for that do you remember what it was like seeing her for that last time?
I remember. She stood there and gave me a loaf of bread to take along. And when I cried, I didn't want to go. She said, we're going to see each other later, after the war. But now she wants me to go. She wants us to go on our own and help ourselves to survive. That was the last time I saw her. The last time. And the older I get, the more I think about it, how she felt. It must be horrible. But it's also heroic. She wanted her children to do their best and survive.
And then did you go back to find your younger sister and leave to the
After
village?
you mean after the war?
No, after you left your mother. What did you do?
Well, after I left my mother, I went to that village to work for that woman what one of our neighbors suggested. And my younger sister, she went to a different village in Poland in a whole different direction. And when like I said, fall came, she wrote me, she don't know what to do. I said, come here, we both will decide what to do. And we decided to go to the Germans. But then came the order to send the labor into labor camps. So that was it.
And the Polish families that asked you to help them by pretending to be their children, were they kind to you?
They were very nice. They were nice. They dressed me up because I was in rags. They fed me to be able to put some more weight on. And we corresponded during the war like daughter and parents. So if anybody should want to say that it's not true who I am, I always had the letters, what I could show that is true. And for them was also good because they had the same letters to show to the Germans. They got one child already in Germany. And actually after the war, but I ignored it. Through the radio, one time, I heard they were looking for that girl, for me, what I had the name of her. But I ignored it. I was so angry with the Polacks that even the ones who helped me, I didn't feel like answering.
Do you feel
My husband later criticized him, why don't you answer?
Do you feel that you have more hatred towards the Polish than the Germans?
Tell you what, it's not just hate. I'm looking down on them because they're so bad and primitive and stupid. That is my point of view about them. So, yeah. We had some good Germans too. Germans, like I said, they try to help. It's hard to say the whole country is in one mind of one person, because Hitler was a bad person. He was a murderer. But not all the Germans all of a sudden turned out to be murderers. There was a big thing to go with him because they could take away everything the Jews had. Stores, buildings, businesses, banks. Jews have been very well off in Germany, and they could take it away from them, just like that.
Did you say that a neighbor suggested that the woman who you lived with in the village, did you say that a neighbor suggested you go and live there?
I don't.
When you were going to the village, who suggested that you work for this lady?
How did you find the lady you worked for?
Oh, one of our neighbors, a Polish neighbor.
A Polish
She's
neighbor?
not Jewish, no.
Mhm.
And she said she knows somebody in that village that she may have worked for us. Then when my older sister went, and then she had some infection, she came back in the ghetto, and she didn't want to go back. So then when we went, I went one place, and the other sister went another.
Can you recall your reaction when you found that the Warsaw Ghetto was liquidated? Was that something that you had expected?
No, it's nothing like that anybody can expect. When my sister came from the other village after she finished work, she went to the ghetto to find somebody. And it was gone. There was nothing there, nothing there. She came to me, she said, you know, all gone. No people.
Can you describe what the streets were like?
Young lady, how do you describe horror? And loss and sadness, how do you describe that? Describe it. It's indescribable.
Were there people in the streets or were they empty?
I didn't go there. She just came and said the ghetto is finished, no more ghetto. So they probably were streets normal to the Polacks. Because the Jews, they took away, they liquidated, they sent off, whatever they did.
And when you left the ghetto, did you stop wearing the Star of David? Were you completely undercover? At what point?
Yes. When I find out, like Mother said, we we never had that thing on us anymore, because that would someday, it could put us in bad shape. No. It just went out.
Well, that's-
Got it all?
I think those are all my questions. Are you sure there's nothing else that you would like to share? I don't want to cut you off or just feel like you can only answer my questions. There's anything that you would like to offer?
Whatever you ask, if I can, I answer, but I don't know what else I can tell you.
You've given us so much. This
Thank
is
you
really
so much.
so
You're welcome.
remarkable.
And my children will appreciate it,
Of
the
course.
recording, and make sure that I get some.
This is really important.
Anyway,
to our
if not for my
generation.
daughter, I wouldn't do that interview. But she said, Mom, it's important that people know, keep on knowing about it, because it should never happen again. And which way is to, like, telling the story, and you write about it, and it goes farther. So, I did the right thing.
You did.
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You're welcome, ladies, and I wish you good luck with that report.
Oh, thank you. This means the world to us to be able to pass this kind of history on. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yes, it's once in a lifetime, a life like that.
Let's hope it never has to happen again.
Mhm. We did once an interview with somebody. My sister was, I don't know if you lady ever heard from the ship Exodus. She was on that boat. And she was interviewed, but she doesn't speak English, so I told the story about it. The guy made a recording and he put it in the museum here in Baltimore. So we kind of recorded our lives more than once. That's all what we can do.
I think we can press pause.